Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to keep your Delta Lake table running fast and efficient at scale across single or multiple workspaces. We're going to talk about something called auto optimize and vacuum scripts as well, which you can schedule a timely manner. They're going to maintain your Delta Lake table on multiple workspaces as well. So before getting into that, quick refresher on Delta Lake. It brings reliability to data lakes, features like ACID transactions, schema enforcement, and time travel. So you can query the previous version of data as well. Essentially, it stores the data in Parquet files plus some extra logs to track changes in versions. And also, Delta Lake is a big hit in Microsoft Fabric. But here's the thing, as your Delta Lake table piles up with lots of data, you might notice that the performance is dropping up because lots of small files building up. That means slower query, higher storage cost. Not ideal solution. Luckily, Delta Lake gives us awesome optimization tool like Optimize and Vacuum to tackle these issues. But here's why you should care about optimizing. It improves query speed. Since reading a few big files is way faster than small ones, it also reduces the total file so you can save big on storage cost. It reorganizes the data into more optimized structure for faster queries. So if you're kind of maverick who's got a need for speed, you're gonna like this. So let's start this demo to get better hold of this. The first up we have is an optimize command. Our friend up here is merging small files into bigger ones. And for this demo, I have loaded like multiple of tiny files. So one row per file. And if we write this command, describe details and table name, it's gonna show us that how many number of files has been used by this table. So for our demo, its number of files are 100. So what happened if I hit run on this optimize and the table name, and one quick note up here that I'm using Z order by ID and V order. So Z order is like indexing. So it's kind of grouped the related data together for speeding up the queries. And you can choose the column of your choice or the most queried column. For me, it's ID. And then I'm using V order. V order on the other hand kind of lines up the data for Fabric so that Vertipack engine can leverage for the gains in indirect lake. And if I hit run on this, it kind of shrinks the total file count and improves the query speed because the larger files are faster to read. So since we can use Z order and V order together, so what does Spark will do? Spark shall perform bin compaction first and then Z order and then V order in the sequence. So if I hit run on this and after running on this, we're gonna hit on describe details. Let's hit on describe details and quickly check that the number of files up here is now reduced to 1. And yes, if I run this another piece of code to check the metadata of Parquet files, that if it's still V ordered enabled, so that my direct lake models that I've been creating in Power BI are faster, they're reading this Delta Lake files or Delta Lake table in a much more faster way. I can run this piece of code and I can check still Parquet V ordered enable as true. But wait, there's more. If I head over to my One Lake Explorer, so what I see that even though I have run the optimize command, it should have compacted the small files, which it did in this file, but the old files still hanging around. So you can use them to, for going back to previous version by using time travel features. But I really want to free up some space, I really wanted to clean up. I don't really need this data. So this is where the vacuum command comes in. What this command does, it sweeps away the old data files and which are not valid. They're just lying around, stealing up your space and like that. So by running this command, which is retain 168 hours, it's going to keep only the last 7 days of valid files and data. And by default, the retention is for 7 days. You can tweak this if you really want to. But just remember, if you tweak this retention hours, it's going to impact how far you can query this Delta tables. Recommendation is to usually keep it for 7 days. So in this small demo, we have learned a very small thing, which is optimizing and vacuuming the Delta Lake files or tables. But let's go a little bit more further. Wouldn't be it's really awesome to optimize in Vacuum, schedule to run periodic basis, keeping everything smooth in my workspaces. Maybe I'm creating new delta tables, maybe I'm doing something else, maybe somebody is doing something else, and I can schedule this on notebooks or pipelines. But do I really need to like do this manually for each table, each individual table, or can I get a little bit more smarter here, or automate this, right? Let's say daily or maybe every 7 days. Let's find out. So for those who have used Synapse, you might be familiar what I'm about to show, which is the Genie notebook, which used to automate the maintenance process in Synapse Analytics to list all the tables, lake houses, and start optimizing and vacuuming them if they are in your Hive store. You can set parameters like vacuum retention in hours, minimum version count. So if it's a low version count, it's an indicator the table has not gone through many changes. You can ignore new tables which has been created in certain time periods. So what does this notebook do? It kind of help you to list the tables utilizing Spark SQL um, through Spark catalog, and it can also list all the tables as well. If I can scroll it down, so yeah, it's listing all the tables which has been registered through my lake houses. And this will work if you are working in a single workspaces. And in order to leverage this, a lake house or at least one lake house needs to be associated with the notebook. So this connection will enables the notebook to query across all the lake houses in a single notebook, and it start interacting with Spark catalog, which is potentially backed by Hive Metastore to retrieve metadata about all the registered tables or delta tables. But the project I've been working on had multiple workspaces that needed simultaneous maintenance. My first thought was to load this notebook into multiple workspaces and then start scheduling it. But then I thought that why not optimize and vacuum based on location of the delta files within the one lake, which is like common storage for all workspaces. So inspired by this Genie notebook, I kind of tweaked to list all the delta table location of my desired workspaces and started the cleaning process. But let's see how it's done. So I have created this notebook in a separate workspace, which is maintenance workspace, which is different from the other workspaces. And in this notebook, I'm bringing something called Azure Identity Package to work with my DFS API, which is same for ADLS Gen 2 as well. And I have referenced this from really good Microsoft blog by Matt, and I shall put that link in the description as well. So I'm using Azure default Azure credentials to set up my environment, and I'm bringing client ID, tenant ID, and client secret from my key vault to set up my service principal. You can check one more video out from GuianaCube if you're interested in how to set up the service principal. So I use this service principal to list all my workspace name. One thing you need to keep in mind while you're doing it is to make sure that your service principal have rights on the workspaces that you're targeting on. So after acquiring all the workspaces name that I have access to, we know that the workspace maps directly to file system DFS or a container, which I can easily loop over to list all the file system directories and delta tables. And I can pass through that workspace name as a parameter name and start storing that ABFSS path in a array, which is like delta paths up here. So I'm storing all those ABFSS path by looping through each workspace name. And if I show you up here, that workspace name act as an account name, or a container name and account name act as one lake only, and then I'm only interested in .lakehouse subdirectories, and I'm looping through /tables to listing all those delta tables. So I can do something more. I can filter down these locations tables based on the format as well. If the format is delta that I'm interested in, if it's not delta, then I need to disregard it. So let's see up here that I'm interested in underscore or only delta files. And if I list them out up here, you can see I'm doing it for multiple workspaces: YouTube demo, and your back to school demo. And it's saying that it didn't found any, or one delta table, or one table is not identified as a delta table, so it has disregarded that, and all the other locations were found as delta tables, which is 36 tables in our case and scenario. So if I simply run this optimize and vacuum command up here, what it's going to do, it's going to clean all the stale data across multiple workspaces. It's going to do in the same Genie notebook style of, parallel task processing. And in my previous table, I can show it to you. We see that there are many files that weren't clean. So we have done this very recent way, or done very recently. We can tweak one property. Yeah, I'm tweaking one property up here, which is retention duration check enable to false. So by tweaking that property, I can go to the 0th hour, and I'm going to show this to just for the demoing purposes. So this will clean and maintain every delta table that I'm interested in, which has done some recent changes or versioning. So what I'm saying is that I'm not interested in doing time travel in my tables. I only need the recent files to stay in. Rest all supposed to be gone. But the recommendation is to use 7 days, which is 168 hour once again. So if I hit this up, it's going to start the process, and it's going to take some time to do this because there are 3 workspaces and it has a lot of tables in it. So what I'll do, I'll jump right next to the part without you guys waiting into the video. So now it seems finished, and if I go back to One Lake Explorer, voila, all my stale files are gone. And now it's been left with one file with the compacted data. Just once again, in heads up, I have to tweak that property to go back to the 0th hours just for the demoing purposes. And it's generally recommended to keep it like 168 hours for your retention hours, which is 7 days. And with that, we have covered the basic of optimizing and cleaning up the Delta Lake tables using Vaccum, Z-Order, V-Order, and some automated maintenance magic, Genie notebook using single workspace, and my tweak notebook with multiple workspaces. You can schedule them accordingly. And one thing to remember, all those reference articles, which is DFS API, how to connect to One Lake, how to set up service principal, the Genie notebook, my notebook will be in the description. And if you have any other techniques or questions or comments, drop them below. Feel free to subscribe. Namaste, and see you in the next one.